Senator Scott, your thoughts on this comment today? You just heard the Congresswoman's reaction.
Well, I'm not going to whitewash his arrogant, insensitive, painful comment that he made. It tells me that he has taken the black vote for granted, and he will continue to do so. This is not the first time we've had rhetoric from the vice president that's been offensive. And factually, listening to my good friend, Congresswoman from Texas, here's what we should think about. It was Senator Kamala Harris that called attention to Vice President Biden's ignorance on the issue of school busing. It was Senator Cory Booker who called him onto the carpet for the crime bill. So his record has been called into question by his own party. The thing I hear right now from his party, however, crickets. It is quiet as a church mouse right now on the left. And I'm tired of hearing people put Democrats on a perch when it comes to offensive, racially offensive comments, and they hold Republicans to a very different standard. And at the same time, it's this administration that has made permanent the funding for historically black colleges and universities for the first time in America's history. It's this administration that has reversed the damages done by the 1994 crime bill with the First Step Act. It was President Trump that signed that legislation into law. It was President Trump and this administration that decided to work with me on opportunity zones to bring $75 billion from the private sector into the poorest communities in this nation, closing the wealth gap. So what I'm suggesting here is I would love the opportunity to put record versus record, because if we do that, African Americans will be voting independently, some for President Trump, some for Vice President Biden.
Senator, to that point, Joe Biden did apologize in a phone call to the Black Chamber of Commerce this afternoon, saying he was too cavalier. He went on to, though, say, look, Donald Trump this is the same man who called Africa S-hole countries, while also claiming there were fine people on both sides in Charlottesville as those racists came out of the fields carrying torches. He's lied about President Obama's birth certificate and failed to respond to their racial disparities in the present coronavirus, and has advanced policies that further threaten African-American communities. Leveled a lot of charges there in that call, but it is a call in which he apologized, and critics of the president say he really never apologizes. What do you say?
Well, I'll say a couple of things. I'm not sure the definition of cavalier. It must be arrogant. The definition of cavalier today must include painful. The definition of cavalier and speaking in jest, I thought it meant like offhand, just a joke. But in fact, this has been a consistent language that he's used over decades, not just now. First thing. Second thing, when President Trump and I had a strong disagreement over Charlottesville, what did he do? He called me into the Oval Office and had a conversation about the racial history of this country. When we finished that conversation, here's what he said. And it was a very simple thing. Tim, help me help those I have offended. We worked together to create opportunity zone legislation, pass it in the tax bill, and because of that, 31 million Americans living in the most devastated parts of this country are going to be recipients of the $75 billion coming into their communities to bring more access to opportunity, hopefully better access to quality education, and certainly around the country, we're hearing more and more affordable housing. Affordable housing is the key to shrinking the wealth gap. So what President Trump has done is he sat down and had a conversation when there has been a challenge. Now, I had the opportunity to sit down with him because I was outspoken about his comments. What do I hear from my friends on the left? No one in leadership is speaking out against Vice President Biden. No one's calling his comments on the carpet. You cannot make progress. President Trump made progress because he was willing to have a conversation, a painful conversation, and we were able to find a path forward. But since then, not only do we have opportunity zones, but we have the historic funding of